Okay, morning everybody. We are learning Sanhedrin in different venue today because there's a very noisy bar mitzvah going on in shul. But nevertheless, we've got everyone here. So we're going to crack on with Sanhedrin. I'll put it on the screen straight away so we can see where we're up to. We are talking about, for those of you who remember, we are talking about haircuts, wine, Kohanim, and all sorts of things like that. Okay. And David Marks raised something at the end of last week's shiur, which required some research. And so I did the research. Apart from David, who raised the issue, anybody remember what it was that David pointed out, and none of us knew the answer as to why?
Yeah,
Okay, David, can you remember what it was that you raised?
I do now.
You'd forgotten, hadn't you?
Yeah, it was about duchening on Tarnish Sybil.
Yes. Okay. Correct. It was about duchening, about Birkat Kohanim. If you remember, what we were talking about in the Gemarah was haircuts for Kohanim and drinking wine. And if you remember, the Gemarah said that there was an opinion, Rebbe's opinion, that Kohanim were not allowed to drink wine at all, because they might at any time be called to go into serve in the Bet Mikdash, and you're not allowed to serve in the Bet Mikdash if you've drunk wine. We know that there's a pasuk in the Torah that tells us that. And so then I raised the issue of saying, well, why is it that we duchen at mincha on a fast day and not on any other day? And I said that really the question is not why do we duchen on a fast day at mincha, it's why don't we duchen every day? And the answer is that a Kohen might have had alcohol during the day, and we don't want to embarrass him by him not going up, etc. So we don't duchen mincha on a fast day. However, he's fasting. So therefore, we can assume he's not had any alcohol. David raised the one section here, just to say what the question was. David raised the question. I'd never heard of this before. And he said that in the shul where he davened, they did not duchen at Mincha Gdola. Mincha Gdola is when you daven Mincha early, close to midday, shortly after midday. That's called Mincha Gdola. Mincha Ktana is when you daven Mincha close to the end of the day, right? And in that shul where David was davening, they only duchened at Mincha Ktana, i.e. the late Mincha. The early Mincha, Mincha Gdola, they did not duchen, and we didn't know why. Okay, so before we get to the answer, Johnny, you wanted to ask?
I was saying on Simchat Torah and Asher and Vansweet, we duchen after Shachrit because the Kohanim would have a tipple after the early.
Correct. In many shuls on Simchas Torah, in ours inclusive, we do not duchen at Musaf, because we made Kiddush already and they've had a tipple, and that's it.
Yeah.
I think okay. Leslie thinks he's got the answer, but before he does so, I'm just going to turn this aircon off. But let me freeze in here.
Right. Just turn it down.
Right in the firing line. And we'll put it back on if we can get it hot. Right, go on, Leslie. What's the answer?
Close the door.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Go on, Leslie.
My suggestion would be that if you've got a Kohen who's actually coming to Mincha Gedola, the reason is he probably is more likely that he's not going to be fasting or has not fasted, and consequently he may have already had a drink. Whereas certainly if he's a Kohen at Mincha Ketana, then certainly he will be fasting and he would be okay.
Okay, Leslie says something which I think is a bit counterintuitive, actually. But let's see what we think. Let's talk it through. Leslie says that at Mincha Gdola, so early Mincha, a Kohen turns up. He says it's more likely that he's not fasting. I would have said that by the end of the day, it's more likely he's not fasting because it's gone on longer and he's got, he's not managed it the whole time. He's managed till lunchtime.
My suggestion is that anyone who comes from Mincha Katana as a Kohen is fasting. Otherwise, they wouldn't do that.
We've got the same thing in Stanmore. We've got a Cohen. He's quite elderly. When he comes to Shacharis on a fast day, we call him up. But when he comes to Mincha later in the afternoon, he won't be.
Okay, but what if it was Mincha Gdola? If he came, you had an early Mincha, he might come still fasting, and then he'd go and break his fast after that. So I think the opposite, actually,
I
Leslie.
think maybe because I've had a drink.
I can see what you're saying, but I still think.
Okay, all right. We've got two different opinions. The answer to the question is neither. Neither me nor your view or my view is not the right answer to the question. But
Maybe he's had a drink in the morning, evening, a later minute.
it's worn off.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good. That's. I'm going to say what Johnny said. It doesn't work, but the Gemarah does raise that issue. Johnny says that maybe we think he's had a drink early on in the day, and by the time Mincha Ktana comes, he's worn off, and he's no longer, he's no longer under the influence. Hold that thought, because the Gemarah actually mentions something a bit like that, Okay, let me tell you what the real answer is. The real answer is this, and it is based on a Gemarah in Tanis 26b, that normally there is no Birchas Kohanim at Mincha because we're concerned that a Kohen may have drunk wine. And they, Chazal wanted to extend that even to Mincha of a fast day, because somebody turning up to Mincha on a fast day, seeing duchening, might think that you duchen every day at Mincha. So in order not to get confused, which is quite a common halachic sort of idea. So in order not to get confused with an ordinary mincha, that was a suggestion. We're not going to duchen at all on mincha on a fast day. Now, the Gemarah then says, but wait a minute. If you daven mincha very late in the day, right? If you daven mincha very late in the day, that resembles something like ne'ilah, right? So the Shulchan Aruch says in Orach Chaim 129, B'tanit she'ein bo ne'ilah, on a fast day where there is no ne'ilah, in other words, not Yom Kippur, ho'ila tfilas mincha samach l'shkias hachama, since you daven mincha late. Apparently, that was the way they did it. You did daven mincha ktana. Okay,
and Tisha B'Av is much later.
Much later. Okay, so the daven mincha. Well, that's right. You daven mincha close to shkia. He dome litfiat ne'ilah. It's like ne'ilah. Hilkach. Therefore, yesh ba nasiat kapayim. They do duchen. So, on a fast day without ne'ilah, since it's like ne'ilah when you daven mincha close to the evening, it resembles ne'ilah. So it would seem that the common practice was to daven mincha gedola, generally speaking, but only on a fast day you would daven mincha ketana. And since that's like ne'ilah, they allowed you to duchen because there was a difference. You wouldn't get mixed up. So let's say on a regular afternoon, you would daven mincha at 2 o'clock, right? The regular mincha at 2 o'clock. On a fast day, if you daven at 2 o'clock and then you duchen, people are going to think you daven mincha and you duchen at mincha every day. Okay? Whereas if mincha is later, why? Because it's like ne'ilah. This is like, it's almost like Yom Kippur. We've got a ne'ilah type situation. That is why at mincha ktana, you do duchen, but not at mincha gdola. So it is basically a clear halacha in the Shulchan Aruch based on the Gemarah. However, so the question is this: why do we duchen if you do mincha gedola?
Yeah, he must have think he'd daven ne'ilah at night time.
Right. So why is the minhag that David described not what everybody does? If it's in the Shulchan Aruch, and I've just shown you it's in the Shulchan Aruch, why doesn't everybody do it? Why was it such a surprise to me and everybody else, except for David who goes to this place? Well, why do you think? There must have been somebody else.
Because they don't want to embarrass the Kohen.
There must have been a dissenting opinion. And the dissenting opinion was somebody who was quite authoritative, who disagreed with that opinion, by the name of the Chazon Ish. You heard of him? Okay, the Chazon Ish was, the Chazon Ish held that on a public fast the Kohanim may duchen even at Mincha Gedola, and in his Beit Midrash they did so. Interesting. So I looked this up, and Yeshivat Har Etzion in the Gush has a very nice summary of it, and he says that this is quoting directly from Yeshivat Har Etzion. Chazon Ish allows even earlier mincha, but most authorities limit Birchat Kohanim to mincha near sunset. Among Ashkenazim, this is often treated as from Plag HaMincha. So from Plag HaMincha onwards, whereas the Sephardim require it really very close to Shkia, only half an hour before Shkia. So there we go. That's
just one thing to add to that, Johnny. Mr. Brewer also explains this, that originally on all Taniot, Ne'ilah was said. You find that in Mishnah Tanis.
Okay, that's interesting. Didn't know that.
And duchening would be in Ne'ilah. And think about the only time in the year that we say Ne'ilah. There's no duchening in Mincha. The duchening would be in it. So if you get to Birkas Kohanim before Shkia, you duchen.
That's really interesting. So David said, just for those that didn't hear it clearly, David said that there's the original minhag was that on every fast day there would be Ne'ilah. And if you think about what the only time we do Ne'ilah today is on Yom Kippur, and we do not duchen at Mincha on Yom Kippur because we duchen at Ne'ilah. So that's really interesting. So where there's a Ne'ilah, you don't duchen at Mincha at all. Where there's no Ne'ilah, so like today, Ne'ilah is only on Yom Kippur. But clearly, I mean, it makes sense because I was wondering what David has just said has answered a question that I had when I read this answer. I had the question, why does it say on a fast day where we don't have Ne'ilah? Why doesn't it just say on all fast days other than Yom Kippur? Well, he's answered the question because previously other fast days did have Ne'ilah. Now, it's probable that some fast days did and some fast days didn't, because otherwise it doesn't make sense what it says that those that didn't. But that makes sense now. So,
and when is the time for Ne'ilah? Close to Shkia.
Close to Shkia. And what do we do? I don't know about you in your shul, David, but we are always concerned that we are going to miss Shkia. And so what we do is we reverse the order. Instead of having the slichot in the repetition of the Amida for Ne'ilah and then Birchat Kohanim in its normal place, we flip it and we bring the duchening before the slichot. We do the duchening. It's usually, we're usually Rav Yuval and I looking at our watches and going to Arik or whoever it is that's davening Ne'ilah. No, come on, we're very close to Shkia. Get on with it.
Arik, would he? Because he does time.
No, Arik's very good. It's true. Because we've got to get Birchas Kohanim in before Shkia, and then once we've got Birchas Kohanim before Shkia, we can then go back to Slichot and say the Slichot at a regular pace. And that's so that makes sense.
That fits in as well. If you ever go to a Sephardi shul on Yom Kippur, you'll notice that what they do is repeat the Amida, say a Kaddish Titkabal, and then start Slichot.
Right.
And it's the same Slichot as they say the whole of Elul, roughly. So that way, Birkat Kohanim is always before Shkia.
Right. Okay. So there we are. That's another
So you've got a basis
another
for your
minhag.
minhag there.
So that was a really interesting little.
Am I not correct in thinking in Chutz La'aretz, we don't duchen at all?
No.
No, we don't duchen at Neil in Chutz La'aretz because of the Shkia problem. They don't do that in Chutz La'aretz. I don't think
The problem.
I don't think they do duchen at Neil in Chutz La'aretz, do they?
No, so only
What's the
Muslims.
problem? What's the problem?
Okay, so you can't. Birkat Kohanim has to be during the day. Okay. Now, once you've hit Shkia,
which
is sunset.
Sunset. So that's roughly what? How much?
Well, depends. In the summer in Glasgow, it can be an hour and a half before nightfall. Right? Here in Israel, it's around about 35, 40 minutes.
What's the problem in say in London? Well, why would he not be?
I don't think that's the reason.
Go on, David.
Leslie, I think the reason is because Ashkenazim in Chutz La'aretz only duchen at Musaf.
Ah, okay.
Because you can ask the same question, why don't they duchen at Shacharis?
Yes, there's a thing. There's a thing. Okay, so they don't have to worry about Shkia because they don't duchen anyway. Because the minhag Ashkenaz in Chutz La'aretz is only to duchen at Musaf, which is why it's so unusual that we mentioned before on Simchas Torah, we duchen at Shacharis, which is unusual. You don't normally duchen at Shacharis, but because they're going to have a shikha after Shacharis, we bring forward duchening from Musaf to Shacharis. That makes sense, of course.
Can I just bring one more problem to the equation?
Yeah, go ahead.
That if this particular shul follows the Chazon Ish and doesn't do Birkat Kohanim at Mincha Gedola, why do they say Birkat Kohanim for the Shliach Tzibur, which they do? And why do they change the Nusach, which doesn't apply to you because you're Nusach Sfard or Shul, but Nusach Ashkenaz, on a Tanis Tzibur at Mincha you say Sim Shalom instead of Shalom Rav? So again, in this shul, the Shliach Tzibur said Elokeinu v'Lekav, he said Elokeinu b'Bracha, and then changed from Shalom Rav to Sim Shalom, and that doesn't make sense, does it?
Okay, so the Yeshiva Har Etzion summary predicted your question, as it so happens. Because, and I didn't say this, and when I stopped reading out at this point because I thought it was a bit complicated. But since you've raised it, it says like this. Hang on a second. He says, however, even where Ashkenazim do not duchen at an early mincha on a fast, right? Some still have the chazan say Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu. Okay.
We do.
Yeah. So again, that doesn't make sense. The truth is, David, the Har Etzion summary doesn't say why. It just says that that's what they do. So I don't know the answer to the question of why, but you are absolutely right to point that out. And it seems that this is a recognized minhag. I don't know why. Maybe we should. I can write to the yeshiva, the author of this summary, and see if we can find out why that is, because it doesn't really make sense, does it?
I think as well that this was only introduced as a minhag in this particular shul when they took on a new Rav. Ah,
okay. Well, that would make sense. But he does have, as they say, yesh al mi lismoch. He does have something to rely on. He's not made it up.
No.
So that was really interesting. Thank you for raising that question at the end of last week's shiur.
We changed the minhag in our shul to ducking for Neil early.
Yes, that's true. That is true. We also changed the minhag. That's right. Rav Ido was the one that changed it. What we used to do was gabble the slichot very, very fast, so that we did get to Birchat Kohanim before Shkia. What's the problem with that? I'm going to ask Moshe the Chazan here. What's the problem with that? If we gabble the slichas and we get to Birchas Kohanim after slichas,
Malkeinu takes 20 minutes.
correct, you've got to schlep out Avinu Malkeinu for 20 minutes because you've almost finished. And there's still, there's still time to go on. So, yeah, so Ravi Doe was the one that introduced this minhag to our shul of, I lost the screen now, of saying the slichos earlier.
Sorry, in our shul, what happens is often you got to Avinu Malkeinu well before on Yom Kippur. You got to it early, and you davened mincha, and then you blow the shofar after the fast had gone out.
You mean you davened Mariv, not mincha, Mariv.
Mariv. So you did Ne'ilah. You did Avinu Malkeinu well before the end of the fast. You then did Mariv, and then you blew the shofar once you knew the fast was out.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've seen that done. I don't like it for a number of reasons. The main reason being that as soon as you finish Ne'ilah, Hashem Hu Elokim, that's the end of that. People are already, most people don't stay for Mariv. And you've got, I suppose, technically Chilul Yom Tov there. So I've seen it done, Michael. Personally, I don't like it.
In a lot of places, if you don't do that and blow the shofar after Mariv, you won't have a minyan for Mariv.
Yeah. Many places.
I believe that was one of the reasons why it was instituted.
Yeah, people run off. They don't want to have a Mariv. They're finished. They've been there all day. They've had enough. So really interesting that. Thank you for raising that, David. That opened a whole interesting can of worms. So let's go to the Gemarah now.
Charlie, the other question we asked was, can a Kohen make Kiddush? Fine.
Can a Kohen make Kiddush? Well, you'll see from the Gemarah that he can. According to Rebbe, Rebbe would have a problem with it. But because Rebbe is the one that says, if you remember, he said, look, if it was up to me, I would have the Kohanim not drinking wine at all, ever. But it's not, he basically says, what can I do? They don't want to listen to me. So
come drink before the avoda, before the going into.
Let's have a look. We are going to look at on the page. Where are we now? Okay. Right, so the Gemarah is talking about the comparison between the drinking of wine and the haircuts, because what we've said was that the rabbis banned the Kohanim from drinking wine at any time, right? And that was because, let's have a look here. The Gemarah answer, right. So, exactly where we are we on the page? Hachanami.
Fourth paragraph. Fourth down.
One second. Yain shelo bisman shari.
The fourth one down, John.
Vayayin shelo bisman bia shari. Is that where we're up to? Where are we, Johnny?
I thought we were up there.
Okay, we'll go from Ihochi then. We'll go from Ihochi. Okay, there in the middle of the page there, Ihochi, ha'idna nami. Ihochi. If so, says the Gemarah, if so, i.e. that the restriction on the Kohanim having long hair is a Torah law, then ha'idna nami. Ha'idna means nowadays. Nowadays also. It should be the case. Okay, it should be the case. If you can't say that if it's a Torah law, then what's the difference? Okay, so he says, the Gemarah responds and says, it's dumya de yayin. Okay, it's like wine. Ma yayin bisman bia huda osur. It's only when you're coming into the Bet Mikdash that you're not allowed to drink wine. Okay? Therefore, Shelo bizman bia, when you're not coming into the Bet Mikdash, shari, it's permitted. Af, similarly, prui rosh, having long hair, bizman bia asur, you can't go and have a long hair going into the Bet Mikdash to do the service. Shelo bizman bia shari. But as long as you're not going into the temple, so, it's not your day, it's not your week, it's not your turn to serve, you can have long hair. That's what the Gemarah says. And the Gemarah says, wait a minute, hang on a minute, is that right? Is that right, what you've just said? It challenges it. V'yayin shelo bizman bia shari. Is that the case, that you can drink wine whenever, even if you're not going into the Bet Mikdash, if you're a Kohen? And this is what we've done this before, but it's good revision. V'hatanya, we've learned in the Brisa. Rebbe Omer, remember we said Rebbe was the one that said, Omer ani. Yeah, have you got the place, everyone? Yeah. Omer ani, I say, says Rebbe, Kohanim asurin nishtot yain leolam. Kohanim are forbidden to drink wine. That's it, forever. Aval ma e'eseh. What can I do? He says. I'm only Rebbe. I'm only Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. Nobody listens to me, right? Shitakanatur kalkalator. They don't listen to me. They don't listen to me. What can I do? He says they don't listen to me. I'm a nobody. So he says if it was up to me, I would ban them from drinking alcohol altogether. V'amar Abaye, and Abaye says, "Kaman shati kaneh chamra ha'idna." Is that in accordance with whose opinion do we say that they are allowed to? Kerebi Michlal Rabbanan Asri. It can't be Rebbe, can it? It can't be Rebbe Yehuda Nasi because he's the one that prohibits it. So Abaye asks, well, wait a minute. If Rebbe Yehuda Nasi says you can't drink, a Kohen can't drink wine ever, who allows it? In other words, what Abaye is saying is, who's got the guts to stand up to Rebbe, right? And the Gemarah says, wait a minute, we need to just go into this in a bit more detail. He says, Hatam Hainatama. He says there's a reason for the prohibition, that why Rebbe says this. When did Rebbe live? When did Rabbi Yehuda Nasi live? Before. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was the author of the Mishnah. Mishnah was written in
1200.
200.
Then you had two.
You knew it had a 2 in it, Julia. Yeah. 200. So when was the temple destroyed? 70.
73.
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi has written the Mishnah at around about 200. Okay. He wasn't a young man when he wrote that. So he lived in a time not that long after the destruction of the temple. Truth is, and this is relevant to our time of year now, we are in the period Bein HaMetzarim, between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av. I'm looking around the table here and I'm seeing unshaven folk because we're in mourning. Right? We're in mourning for the Bet Mikdash. The truth is, are we really in mourning for the Bet Mikdash? Right, Leslie, do you think every morning, you get up and you think, during this period, I'm not going to have a shave because I'm absolutely in mourning for the Bet Mikdash? Yeah, of course you do. Right, I don't expect you to answer that question. Right? We're not really.
Well, if you don't shave, you must remember every day that why you're not shaving.
One second, Hannah. Yes, Julia?
I said, if you do not shave, then you must think every morning about why you're not shaving.
Okay. Julia says, if you don't shave in the morning, you must think why you don't shave. Well, you think, well, I can only speak for myself. I think I don't shave because it's the 3 weeks. I'm not sure that my thought processes then go on to say, well, what is the 3 weeks? It's the 3 weeks between, I know all this, of course, but do I think every morning when I don't shave that I am mourning the Bet Mikdash? And I be honest with you, no, I don't. However, the point that I was making is that Rebbe lived in a time when it was much closer to the destruction of the Bet Mikdash, where they had a precedent from the first Bet Mikdash when it was rebuilt, the second Beit HaMikdash was rebuilt, how long after the first was destroyed? 70 years. 70 years. And that's why I was working out to you when Rebbe lived. Rebbe will have lived not long after 70 years from the destruction of the second temple. So Rebbe will, from the fact that he was Rebbe Yehuda Anossi, and he's not, you or me, but he was living in a time when he was mamash expecting the Bet Mikdash to be rebuilt at any time. Whereas, unfortunately, we don't feel like that, most of us. 1 second before we go on, Hannah.
I was going to say that yesterday, the day before, I was just driving, nothing special or anything. All of a sudden I sort of thought, a melancholy. Yeah, it's sort of like, I'm not upset about anything. I spent my daughter yesterday, I had a good day, everything was great. But there's a melancholy in the air. I don't know whether it has to do with the 3 weeks or...
Okay, so I'm going to repeat that because I can personally relate to that. Hannah said that yesterday everything was all rosy, no real problems, and she felt a sort of melancholy. And I can relate to that. And I think it is because of the 3 weeks, personally. I certainly remember, not so much the 3 weeks, but certainly the 9 days from Rosh Chodesh Av, when I was in Manchester. I have to have a rider here, and that is that there is nowhere in the world that does misery and mourning and better than Manchester. Tisha B'Av in Manchester is better than anywhere else in the world. They absolutely love it. They sit on the floor and they cry and they say their kinnos and they're literally crying with tears running down their eyes, and they find the most miserable chazan to be the chazan and the most miserable film to show. You've no idea. They go to town on it, right? They really do. And of course, that does have a knock-on effect. And I remember very, very clearly, I can still remember it very, very clearly, that on the lunchtime of the 10th of Av, when it's all over, right? Of course, the morning of the 10th of Av is still part of the Tisha B'Av experience. You can't have your shave until after lunch, after Chatzot on the 10th. But I remember that feeling on the 10th of Av. I remember that feeling lifting. Now we can start the summer holidays. Whatever time of year it was, whether it was August or July, depending on the lunar calendar, there was definitely a melancholia in the air for us. Anyway, in Manchester, I mean, as I say, they absolutely loved it. Nothing like it. But you felt it lift. You did. You definitely felt it lift on the 10th of Av. So I can relate to that. So maybe we are internally, even me, the sort of the anti-Kabbalah personified. Even my neshama is relating into that. Yes, Jackie.
Different reasons for doing different things. I don't shave during the Sphera, and now in memory of my parents who died in the Holocaust. They never had a shiva. So I think it's my way of sitting
Okay.
on.
Kol hakavod. And you got a yortzeit today for your mother. Yes, we should dedicate this shiur to Miriam Bat Shmuel, Aleh Shalom, Yizichra Baruch, mother of Jackie and Leslie.
Thank you.
Okay, so what was I saying? Yes, so you're going to think about this. Let's have a look what the Gemarah says here. We're at the bottom of the page here. He says, Hatam Hainatam. There's a reason why Rebbe said what he said about the Kohanim not drinking wine ever. Meheira Yibaneh Beit HaMikdash. The temple is about to be rebuilt speedily. He was absolutely, and this is why I made this contrast. We're playing at it, aren't we? Really, at least I am, right? So Rebbe wasn't playing at it. He really felt it. He felt, come on, the Beit HaMikdash could be any minute, and therefore, if it could be rebuilt any minute, Ubainan Kohen Hara'ui le'avodah. The Kohen will need a fitting Kohen. and a Kohen who has drunk alcohol is not a fitting Kohen. So there's got to be someone ready to go soon as it's rebuilt. And if we allow them to drink, leka, there will not be one. Hachanami, here also, right? So that here also, Ba'inan Kohen Aroi La'avodah. Here also, we need a Kohen who's fit to do the avodah, and therefore he shouldn't be allowed to grow his hair. Because what if the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt straight away?
Johnny, you said before that
I don't get that haircutting thing.
1 second, Julia. 1 second, John.
before he doesn't drink and he's got long hair.
Okay, yeah, I've jumped the gun. At the moment, we're asking the question, how can we compare the two? So if we compare the two, we've said you can't go in the Beis Hamikdash if you've had alcohol, and the Beis Hamikdash might be rebuilt at any second, and so therefore you can't drink alcohol, and you've got to be prepared, ready to go. Says the Gemarah at this point, well, so it should be the same for a haircut. You should have your hair short the whole time in case the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. Fair question. Over the page now. Okay. Johnny is referring me to the footnote here. And he says, Takanato kalkalato. As a result of the destruction of the temple, the priestly watches became disordered. Therefore, when the temple is rebuilt, a court will have to be convened to organize the watch schedule, as the rota of who's going to work in the Beis Hamikdash, before work can resume. Since, in any case, the priests will not be able to start working immediately, there is no prohibition. Oh, we've jumped the gun there. Okay, we're not going to say that right now because that's coming in a minute. Right, okay, over the page.
No, can I make a
yes,
point?
Julia.
I can't actually agree that the two are comparable, the haircutting and the wine, because a haircut can be remedied in 3 seconds. It's not difficult to snip off long hair. Whereas if you are shikha, then that's not easily remedied.
Okay, wonderful. Julia, without knowing it, has just told us the next piece of Gemarah. Because that's exactly what the Gemarah says. Julia says, in her usual incisive way, I'm sure that you've been hearing a Gilgal before, Julia, in a previous existence you've learned Gemarah. I'm telling you, it's there. It's obvious, right? So Julia says, in her usual incisive way, well, there's no comparison. You can have a haircut in 2 seconds, right? The Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. Fine, okay, get the Kohanim, get the what's its, and get a number 0 and you're off. Whereas if you're shikha, Right, let's see what the Gemarah says, Julia.
But wasn't it that the temple come down?
Okay, all right.
So the Kohen's got to
Okay, so there's a proof against your Kabbalistic thing there for the Jackie. Jackie says, what about the Kabbalistic idea that the Bet Mikdash is just going to drop in from Shamayim? Rabbi Ru, who was just here before giving his shiur, made it very clear that is not mainstream Judaism. It is, and there's a proof against it, because if that was the case,
just now, it's going to come down or go up.
Okay. Anyway, right. So look at the Gemarah now. Exactly what Julia said. Wait a minute, says the Gemarah. Hacha here efshar de misaper. It's possible for him to cut his hair immediately, right? He can cut his hair va'ayal, and he can go up to where? Go to the Bet HaMikdash. Wait a minute. But if you're shikha, right? You've got to wait till it's worn off. Says the Gemarah, no. Hatam nami. He says it's also possible to get the shikhaness, if there's such a word, the drunkenness, to sober up very quickly. How do you do that? Efshar de na'ayem porta va'ayel. You can do 2 things. You can have a little shlof. The na'im porta, right? You can sleep it off, have a little sleep, and then you'll be okay, right? Anyone ever happened to you don't have to answer this. You've got a little bit of, had a little bit to drink, and you drop off, and you wake up, you're okay. says the Gemara, you can do that, right? And he brings a proof. The Amar Rav Acha. Rav Acha says, Derech mil v'shena kol shehu mefigin et hayayin. Walking the distance of 1 mil. How much is a mil? Not quite a mile. Not quite a mile. A mil is 2,000 amot. It actually works out pretty close to a kilometer. A mil. Walking the distance of a mil or sleeping kol shehu. What's kol shehu?
A little bit cold.
A tiny bit. Just having a little schloff, or what my father used to call a drimmel. A drimmel. Yeah? It's a little drimmel. You have a little drimmel. My father always used to use that word, a drimmel. I never knew where it came from.
Little dream.
Yeah, a drimmel is a little dream. Put ill on the end, right?
Yeah.
You were called Yankel, I bet, at some point. Yeah? Yankel, Yankov, Yankel. Put ul at the end. That means little. A drimmel is a little dream. I never knew that. For many, many years, I never knew that. Anyway, you have a drimmel here, and you're okay, says Rav Acha. It's okay. It dispels. He translates it nicely. Dispels the effect of the wine. And if you have a look on the side of the page here, at the halacha over here, the distance of a mil or sleeping a minimal amount will dispel the wine. If one, okay, we'll just come to that in a minute. Forget the halacha for a minute. We'll come back to it in a minute.
Can I make a point?
Yes.
I've just Googled Rav Acha, who was himself a Cohen. So he was looking for a way out.
He's Nogea B'davar. Rav Acha was a Cohen, says Julia.
Well, so said he was either a Cohen or a Levi.
He's got skin in the game. Okay. He's got a vested interest. All right, very good.
Excuse himself.
Okay, let's have a look what the Gemarah says, and then we'll have a look at the halacha on the side of the page. Okay. So, wait a minute, says, hang on a minute, the Gemarah is not finished. We're going back and forth here. They like this argument. V'lav itma Allah. But wait a minute, wasn't it said regarding this? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravma. Look them up, Julia, see if they were Kohanim. Rav Nachman and Rabba Ba'avuha. Lo shani ela shashata kadei revi'it. That solution of having a little drimmel or walking a kilometer only applies if you've drunk a revi'it. What's a revi'it? A quarter. A quarter of what? A quarter of a log. Log is a quantity of wine, quantity of liquid. So, you know, we have pints or gallons or liters or whatever we've got. Their measurement was a log. I'm going to tell you how much it is in a minute. Now, a revi'it is a quarter of this amount called a log. A revi'it in modern day amounts is 86 milliliters. Okay, 86 milliliters. Excuse me 1 second while I just show you how much 86 milliliters is. Right, here we go.
A science lesson.
Okay.
It's a science lesson.
Those of you on Zoom, can you see that? It is a plastic drinking cup, ones that everyone's familiar with. Just a tad over halfway up the cup is 86 mils. How do I know that? I measured it. I measured it before you all came, right? I measured it. That is 86 mil.
And that would fail drink driving, wouldn't it?
It depends on how strong the alcohol was. If it was whiskey, it would probably. If it was wine, probably not. If it was beer, probably not.
Their wine wasn't watered down, so it was very strong.
Yeah, their wine was much stronger than our wine. So that is a revi'it. Okay, so Rav Abba Bavua says that this solution of having a little schloff or walking about a kilometer only works if you drink no more than this amount of wine. And as David points out, the wine that they're talking about was much stronger, probably not as strong as spirits. Generally speaking, our wines are 12%. That's a regular wine. I mean, you get less than that. If you get that buzz stuff, it's only about 5%. But regular wine, you get fortified wine, which is a bit more. But regular wine today is about 12% alcohol. Their alcohol, theirs one, and regular spirits is about 40%. Theirs would have been somewhere, I think, around about 20%. So somewhere in between the two. Okay. So we're familiar with this. We're familiar with this amount of a revi'it because Leila Seder tells us that we have to drink 4 cups. Now, there are those people. I remember when I was a kid, we had round the Seder table. We were given out our bethers that we were given, and some of us had bechers this size, right? And some of us had bechers this size, right? And some of us had bechers this size, tiny little thimbles, right? Yeah. And I remember my grandmother, blessed memory, she'd have a thimble, right? So, oh, no, I can't drink any. Oh, no, it's too much. I'll just have a little bit in there, right? Of course, my parents, bless them, didn't know any better. A cup's a cup, innit? 4 cups of wine, that's a cup's a cup. So, it's a little cup, all right? No, there's an amount you've got to drink. It's that much. And you will not be surprised to know that does not fit that in. Okay, so that doesn't fit. What about the mummy bear? Right, the baby bear's one doesn't work. What about this one? No, that doesn't fit either because I've taken some of that out. So these two are not good enough for Leila Seder. Okay, that one definitely is.
There've been cups that they made that are big for the bees.
Yes, you
find them and you fill them up.
Yeah, you can get the things that are with a little line on it, tells you that's exactly how much you need. So what is a revi'it? A revi'it is a halachic measurement which gives it the label of having drunk, in the same way as a kazayit, an olive size, has the label of eating. If you eat less than an olive size, it's considered that you haven't eaten, which is why on Yom Kippur, those people who need to eat or drink are given what are called shiurim. Not shiurim as in lessons, but shiurim as in measurements. By the way, why is a shiur, meaning a lesson, called a shiur? What is a lesson in Hebrew? Yeah, because it is a measurement. It lasts for a period of time. A shiur is not the content. It's the period of time, right? It's really interesting because the word shiur is a measurement. Johnny, where do you see the word shiur as a measurement? You've said it today at least twice. I'm giving Johnny the chance to get the prize here first before I ask anyone else. You've said it twice today. Go on, Jackie.
Oz Yoshir?
No. No, Oz Yoshir is sheer with a song. This is shiur with an ayin. Shiur. Oh, Moshe's got it. Elu dvorim. These are the things. She'ein lahem shiur. It's right at the beginning of davening. Why did I say you've said it twice? Because you've got it twice. So you've got a Mishnah and a piece of Gemarah there, right? Ein lehem shiur, bikurim, v'ha'peah, etc. Yeah, right at the beginning of davening. Okay, these are the things. Elu devarim she'ein lahem shiur. These are the things that there are no fixed measure. Let's have a look at them and see what they are. Actually, let's get a sitter. Look, see what those things
It tells everybody I don't say it now.
Okay, we all say this, and you know, we're so busy getting our talents ready and our filling ready. I'm freezing. Sorry, Johnny.
Okay, go.
Let's have a look. Yeah. Let's go through them. Since we've come to that word shiur, and you know me, I never like to miss an opportunity.
Before the long one.
Here we go. Where are we? Elu Devarim. These are the things she'ein lehem shiur, that don't have a measurement. Peah. What's peah?
Corner, the corners of the fields. It's about the corner.
We're talking here corners of fields, not corners of hair. Okay, that's why payers, by the way, are called payers, because the peah, it comes from the peah, the corner of the head. Right? The Torah says you shall not shave the corners of your head. So that's why they're called payers, right? But here it doesn't mean the ein lehem shiur. There's no length of payers you have to keep. That's not what it means. This means the corner of the field that you have to leave for the poor. Habikurim,
the first fruits.
The first fruits. V'harei ayon. What's that?
Here they are.
The pilgrimage.
You can't be a little bit pregnant. There's not really
you can't be a little bit pregnant. Okay. Ugmilat chasadim. Charity, good deeds, right? There's no shiur. You can do as much as you want. The Talmud Torah and learning. So there's no fixed amount. Okay. So that's it. So ein lehem shiur. Those are the things that have got no fixed amount. So shiur means a fixed amount. So when we're talking about a revi'it here, this 86 mil, this just about half a cup, if you don't drink that amount on Seder night of each of your 4 cups, you haven't drunk the 4 cups. Each of those 4 cups has to be at least 86 mil. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Now, the flip side of that is on Yom Kippur, if you have to drink because you're not well or you're not able to fast, and you drink 85 mil and not 86 mil, then technically you have fasted, right?
Is that the same for taking a tablet?
Yes. So when you take your tablets on Yom Kippur, as long as you take it with less than half a cup of water, technically you have filled the fast. You have, according to every opinion there is, you have fulfilled your obligation to fast. Same with food. That's not to say that you can just do it willy-nilly. It's only obviously if you need to. If you need to eat, there is a certain amount, which is an olive size. And there's a debate as to what an olive size means, but we're not going into that now. But we'll just call it an olive size for the moment. If you eat less than an olive size, then that is not considered to be within a certain period of time. Within the machlokas, whether it's 2 is the shortest time, 9 is the 9 minutes, or 2 minutes is the longest time. If you eat less than a olive size during that period of time, it is not technically eating, and therefore you have still completed your fast. The flip side of it is if you eat on Pesach less than an olive size of matzah, you have not fulfilled your mitzvah because it's not considered eating. Now, that is the shiurim. Here, what he's saying is that the revi'it, he's not using it saying that this is a halachic amount. What he's saying is that this shlof, or this little walk it off, only works if you've a little bit shikar. In other words, you only had a revi'it, but you have more than a revi'it. And he's just using it as a measure because everybody knows this measure. Because of the halacha, if I was to say to you, a litre of water, you know how much a litre of water is. You can imagine it where you don't have to stop and think about it, right? Or if you're a bit older and a bit English, a pint, right? If I say to you a pint of milk, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? If I was to say a log, you wouldn't know. But if I was to say a log to Rabacha or a viit to Rabacha, he would know straight away. If I was to say a pint, he wouldn't know what I was talking about. It's just a convenient measure that everybody knew. So when he says a reviit, it doesn't mean to the nine, it doesn't mean that if 85.5 mil is okay and 86.5 isn't. That's not what he's talking about here. In halacha, that's true. Here, he's just using it as an amount to tell you it works if you're a little bit tipsy, not if you're blind drunk. That's basically what he's saying. Let's just finish this piece of Gemarah.
Regular Kiddush, the same measurement.
Kiddush is the same. Yeah,
same measurement.
Same amount. You've got to have a reviit. Yes.
On Yom Kippur, if you need to drink more than once, you can also
Indeed.
drink every
Indeed. The revius thing, or the chetzi shear, the half a shear that we talk about, is if you do it every 9 minutes, you're absolutely safe. I worked it out once. Once I'll come to you in a second, Julia. I worked it out once that assuming somebody sleeps 8 hours, right? So you've got 17 hours of Yom Kippur where you're awake. And if you drink the amount that you're allowed to drink, in other words, just under the shiur, every 9 minutes, which is the harshest way of doing it, the biggest time. So let's say every 10 minutes, I worked out that a person could drink almost 3 liters of water throughout Yom Kippur and still be considered to have fasted. So when somebody says to me that they can't fast, oh, by the way, I worked it out. I did all this many, many years ago because I used to get asked all these shilas about diabetics on fasting. So and by the way, the food thing, I worked it out that if you eat a kazayit, which is about a quarter of a piece of bread, a standard sliced loaf, right? A quarter of a piece is about what you can eat. So if you do that every 10 minutes, so that's 6 an hour times 17 hours, 60, so it's 100, just over 100 quarters. You could eat 25 pieces of bread and drink almost 3 liters of water and still be considered to have fasted. So I say there is almost no one who cannot fast on Yom Kippur using the shiurim. Okay?
Only if
Think about it.
Only
if you I'm not saying that's what you should do, but I'm saying if you need to. Okay, let's just finish this. Oh, Julia first. Yes, Julia.
You asked me about Rav Nachman and Rabba Bar Avuha, and neither of them, and I think they contradict Rab Aha, neither of them are Kohanim. Rabba Bar Ahuva was the father-in-law of Rav Nachman, and he sounds like a really interesting character, actually, really interesting, but not Kohanim, so they're able to contradict.
Okay, so we think that Rav Acha has got skin in the game, and therefore we are going to dismiss his opinion. Anyway, very good. Let's just finish this last couple of lines here. Lo shano ela sheshata k'tei revit. That only works, this little sleep off, if you've only drunk a certain amount of alcohol. Aval yoter mikdei revit. If you drink more than that amount of alcohol, of wine, kol shekain dederech toradato v'sheina me-shakarto. He says it'll make it worse. If you have a sleep, it'll make it worse. Well, it's true, isn't it? You wake up with a hangover. Right, so, ein chadash tachat hashemesh. They knew of hangovers at the time of the Gemarah. You drink a good load of strong wine and you go and have a sleep, you feel terrible when you wake up, right? So it only works if you're only just a little bit thingy. Okay, let's just finish these last two. No, we'll stop there. Very good. Okay, excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Oh, sorry, I wanted to ask something.
No.
I can see we're coming to the end of this section. Do we have a celebratory?
No.
Anything to
Sorry,
celebrate?
1 second, Julia.